Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Jen Cheek. I'm Executive Director of the Farmers Market Coalition, and this is our webinar titled SNAP Success, Equipment and Outreach Essentials for Market. We are recording this webinar so that we can post it online at a later date. And I'm going to take a quick moment to walk you guys through the webinar controls so everyone can feel comfortable using them. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I don't see any complaints yet in the chat box, so if you can hear me, great. If you are having trouble hearing, you can click on the audio section of the control panel, which is on the right-hand side of your screen, and there's an option to select phone calls so that you can call in rather than use your computer speakers. So if you're having trouble hearing, I suggest you give that a try. You'll also see on the webinar controls there's a questions section near the bottom. We encourage you throughout the webinar to put any questions that come up into that question box. We have staff on hand to be answering those during the webinar, and also we'll read them aloud at the end of the webinar or in the middle if it is appropriate. So we want to make sure to get everyone's questions answered. So again, I'm Jen Cheek, Director of the Farmers Market Coalition. We also will have on the webinar with us today May Carroll, who is our EBT Equipment Program Manager, Emma Hansen, our EBT Program Associate, Alex Canepa, our Research and Education Director, and Liz Comiskey is on with us today. She's going to be helping manage some of the questions. She is our Membership and Outreach Coordinator. So the Farmers Market Coalition, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we are a national 501c3 nonprofit. We're a member-based organization. We have members in all 50 states. Right now, we have just over 1,000 members representing about 4,000 farmers markets. And we provide a lot of different resources to our members. We have a resource library full of best practices, tools, templates that members can access. We also have Market Manager frequently asked questions. We have networking opportunities like our listserv, which is active pretty much daily. Market managers from all across the country are able to ask questions directly of one another and participate in some peer-to-peer learning. We have specific guides and promotional tools for things like National Farmers Market Week. We offer programming on site at your market. We have a kids program called Pop Club, which is the Power of Produce Club. We have all sorts of activity guides and tools to help you run a pop club at your market. We also participate in a lot of advocacy initiatives, making sure that the voice of farmers markets is heard at all levels of government, from state regulations and policies all the way up to Capitol Hill. So if you aren't a member already, we encourage you to go to the website and check out our resources. And I'm going to pass this over and get right into the meat of the webinar with Emma Hansen, our EBT Program Associate. Emma, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Jen. My name is Emma Hansen, and as Jen said, I'm the EBT Program Associate with Farmers Market Coalition. And just as a real quick introduction for those of you who are unsure, SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's a federal program of the USDA and FNS. It provides nutrition benefits to low-income individuals and families to be used at stores to purchase food items. SNAP recipients use EBT cards or electronic benefit transfer cards that function like debit cards to purchase eligible food items at retail stores. Markets commonly accept SNAP using wireless EBT equipment to swipe their EBT cards. The customer swipes their card for a specified amount and then is provided scrip, which is usually like a receipt or tokens, that they can then use to purchase food with the vendor of their choice. Vendors regularly submit their tokens or receipts to the market manager to redeem for cash. Next slide, please. So as we move through this webinar, we're going to kind of follow a sequence of steps that will allow you to create and maintain a successful SNAP program at your market. The first step is to become a SNAP retailer. Once you're officially SNAP authorized, you'll need wireless EBT equipment for your farmer market. Then you'll need to do some outreach and promotion to attract SNAP customers. Next slide. In order to become a SNAP retailer, you need to apply online at FNS's website. The application itself isn't really difficult, but FNS usually takes between 30 to 45 days to approve each application, so it's definitely better to get this done ahead of time. And occasionally FNS has SNAP sign-up days where you'll be able to get approved on site and avoid the normal wait time. You can see a list of current sign-up days on FNS's website, and that is the circled link on the right-hand side. If there's no sign-up day happening in your state, you can always host one. Also included in that circled link are a couple of FNS contacts you can reach out to help organize your sign-up day. You can also reach out to your regional FNS representative. There's a list of regional reps on FMC's website on our SNAP guide page. If you do end up hosting your own sign-up day, it could be worthwhile to contact one of our preferred service providers. If they're interested in attending, they could bring examples of their equipment so you fully understand how it operates before you decide to purchase. Also, be sure to contact us at FMC so we're available and prepared to answer any questions by phone or email that you may have. Next slide. And with that, I just wanted to introduce everyone to our equipment program. So after you get your official authorization from FNS, your next step would be to apply to our free SNAP EBT equipment program. Next slide. Through this program, the USDA Food and Nutrition Service will cover the costs of SNAP EBT equipment and services for up to 3 years. Markets and farmers who are approved through the program will have the opportunity to work with one of our preferred service providers and select from among 7 equipment options, including the opportunity to use your own iPhone or iPad to accept SNAP benefits. And now to discuss our program in more detail, I'm going to hand it over to May Carroll, who's our EBT program manager. Take it away, May.
Hey guys. Awesome. Hey guys, again, my name is May Carroll. I am FMC's Free SNAP EBT Equipment Program Manager. So before you apply, let's walk through the eligibility criteria that we have. The first criteria under which you might be eligible is if you do not currently possess functioning EBT equipment. This might mean that you just received your SNAP authorization and you don't yet have equipment, or it might mean that you purchased equipment at some point in the past, but it no longer functions in a way that enables you to accept EBT transactions. The second criteria here under which you might be eligible is if you currently have functioning EBT equipment, but you received that equipment prior to May 2nd of 2012. Please also note that we are only able to approve direct marketing farmers who participate in at least one farmer's market. We utilize the USDA's definition of a farmer's market that you can read at length at the bottom of the slide, and that is essentially 2 or more farmer producers that sell their own agricultural products directly to the public at a fixed location, which includes fruits and vegetables, meat, fish, poultry, dairy products, and grains. This definition is also available on the farmers market portion of the USDA's website at usda.gov/farmersmarkets. Next slide. So let's now take a quick moment to walk through the equipment options that are available. You see that we have smart device options available through MarketLink and Merchant Source, and traditional Verifone options available through Merchant Source and TSYS. Next slide. So these next 2 slides we're looking at are screenshots of the service provider comparison matrix that we have available on our website at farmersmarketcoalition.org/EBT-service-providers. That URL is written vertically along the left-hand side of the slide if you didn't quite catch all of those hyphens and dashes. This incredibly useful and detailed guide will help you answer important questions that your market or farm should ask before selecting your provider. Some of these questions you should ask include, will I use cell service or wireless to process transactions at my market? If I plan to use cell service, which provider has the strongest signal in my area? And this question is particularly helpful for more rural markets or farms where cell service might be sparse and good coverage may be limited to only one provider. Third and fourth are, how durable do I need my terminal to be? And how comfortable am I or my volunteers with technology? Next slide. So we encourage you to put real thought into the selection of your service provider and invite you to reach out to them directly if you have questions that are not answered on our site. The contact information for each of the providers is listed at the bottom of the matrix here, and again, this whole sheet is available on our website. We've also calculated on the kind of second blue box here the cost of year 4 for the equipment and service in this program. Remember that the Free SNAP EBT equipment program is a 3-year program, and that your market or farm will be responsible for this cost in year 4 and beyond. For examples and case studies on how other markets have found ways to offset this cost, I encourage you to look into the resource library that Jen Cheek will mention later in this webinar. Next slide. So now let's walk through the process of actually applying to the Free SNAP EBT equipment program. The first thing you want to do is navigate to fmctoolbox.org, and before you apply, you'll want to have in hand both your FNS number as well as a completed W-9. Once FMC is able to verify your eligibility with FNS, we'll release your approval number to the email on your application. The email that we send will also have further instructions on how to contract with one of your preferred service providers. After you talk to all 3 of them and figure out who you want to contract with, you'll sign their documents, and they will invoice us, they'll invoice FMC, and then release the equipment to the address you provide to them. Once you get that equipment in the mail, please do let us know that it has arrived. And then just be aware as you're keeping your books that at the end of each calendar year, FMC will send out a short report for you to complete on the usage and impact of the FNS-funded EBT terminal. This is a really important report, so make sure that you are keeping those records. The data that we get back is incredibly helpful for, to both us and FNS. Next slide. Here are 2 quick screenshots of both what you'll see when you navigate to that URL to fmctoolbox.org, and also an example of what a W-9 looks like that you'll need in hand before you complete your application. If you don't have a pre-filled one on hand, we do have a downloadable copy available on that application itself. Next slide. I won't read these out to you, but these are 2 short testimonials from farmers market who received terminals from us and saw great success with their SNAP program at market. You'll see that as of January 2017, we've approved over 1,000 markets and farmers to receive these no-cost terminals. Keep in mind, if you're kind of considering getting your SNAP number, SNAP authorization, or if you're considering participating in this program, the deadline that we have is May of 2017, and that the funding is available on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you think this program would be right for your market or farm, we definitely recommend that you get your application in early to avoid being disappointed if you run out of funds. Next slide. So finally, here are the links to everything that I just chatted with you all about, and also on the right-hand side, the contact information for myself. Again, I'm May Carroll, for Emma Hansen, the program associate, and for Jen Cheek. And I am now going to hand it off to Jen Cheek to talk about some of the resources available on FMC's website.
Thanks, May. So this is Jen Cheek again. Just wanted to reiterate the fact that first step in this process, if you want to offer SNAP at your farmer's market, is to contact USDA Food Nutrition Service so that you can become a SNAP retailer yourself. That is handled by the USDA, and you can see the link at the bottom of the screen there. And the next step is, if you would like to get free wireless EBT equipment, is to go to fmctoolbox.org on our website and apply for this program. So once you have equipment in hand, you're a SNAP retailer, you're ready to go, you're not finished yet. We have seen across the country that just because you have the equipment doesn't mean that SNAP customers are going to know that they can come spend their SNAP dollars at your market. So we wanted to highlight some of the really great work that we've seen go on at farmers markets this past year through both the USDA Farmers Market SNAP support grants. The USDA offered funding to 52 organizations last year to do some outreach and promotion. There were some really great innovative projects, as well as some tried and true methods, and we wanted to highlight some of those, as well as some just FMC members and some great advertising that we've seen around the country. So hopefully you can pick up some tips and tricks for your market. First things first, I want to make sure people know about the resources we have on Farmers Market Coalition's website. This is a public website. You can go there right now. It's farmersmarketcoalition.org, and I wanted to point out 2 pages that we would love for you to check out. The first is the resource library, and that is a compilation of about 500 resources from markets across the country for a variety of topics. We have anything from vendor applications to board bylaws and pretty much any sort of template you could need for your market. We have a whole section on SNAP resources. So definitely go to the resource library, check out the SNAP resources, and also remember that you can submit things to the resource library so that your partner markets can also see them and share and learn from them. So if you have a great SNAP resource, please do upload it into the resource library. And I'm going to walk us through a couple of the great resources we have available on our SNAP guide for farmers markets, which is that second menu item there. Our SNAP guide was created about 1.5 years ago with help from the Washington State Farmers Market Association, Colleen Donovan and Karen Kinney over there, as well as Suzanne Briggs, Wholesome Wave, and Stacy Miller, our past executive director at the Farmers Market Coalition. Basically, there's so much great material out there on SNAP. We wanted to compile it all into one place and make it easily reviewable and easy to update so that we can always keep it on the website and have it up to date for everyone. So we basically compiled all this information onto the website into these menu items. So this is the full SNAP guide menu that you'll find. It includes basic SNAP program information, questions you should ask if you are thinking about accepting SNAP at your market, ways to help you understand your community and customer base, state and federal support opportunities, our very popular page, 10 ways to fund your SNAP program, as well as links directly to the USDA website to become a SNAP retailer, equipment information, information about tokens and scripts, vendor policies, and ideas for local partnerships. So any of these items, you just click on it and it opens up. This is our SNAP glossary. That's the last menu item, which is very useful. But also I wanted to point out the state-by-state resource list, because if you're thinking about taking the step of doing outreach and promotion for SNAP at your market, the first thing you should do is check to see what resources are available in your state. So we've created a list of all 50 states. We put all of the contact information, any information about a state farmers market association or any Department of Agriculture funds or Department of Human Services funds that are available to help markets promote SNAP. We add them in there as we learn about them. If you see something in that list that needs to be updated, just give any of us an email and we'll get it updated. We keep it as up to date as possible. But those state resources are hugely important as you're thinking about promotion at your market, because states are able to offer multi-tiered support. So this image on this slide right here is from the Illinois EBT Wireless Project, which started a couple years ago with the Illinois Farmers Market Association, as well as multiple partners within the state, including the Department of Ag and their Department of Human Services that ran SNAP. And they were able, by bringing all of these groups together, to offer comprehensive and coordinated marketing. So they were able to create a directory of all the markets that accepted LINK, which is what SNAP is called in Illinois. So they created this great interactive, Google directory of all the markets that accepted SNAP. There was also a print version. They were able to work with the Department of Health to print out and include in their direct mailing to SNAP customers promotional materials about using SNAP at the market. They were able to put out guides for markets to learn from each other's best practices. And they also offered promotional materials like banners and posters that markets could have on site. So they were able to use their economies of scale, the fact that they had multiple markets participating, to purchase promotional materials at a more affordable price. So this collective action really helps the markets of Illinois to increase their SNAP redemptions. And so you really felt the difference at the local level, having that state level support. So definitely check the resource library, see what's available at your state as a very first step. And then one thing that we see markets skip over a lot is probably the most important piece of promotion and outreach for SNAP programs is learning about your target audience. We have to identify and connect with the local organizations and agencies that are already serving SNAP customers to glean what they know. Rather than starting from scratch, we should tap into the existing knowledge bases already. So who in your neighborhood or your city, who is already working with SNAP customers? Reach out to local SNAP offices, any local nonprofits who are supporting low-income neighbors, food-based nonprofits, social services. There's a lot of different groups that can be working with SNAP customers. So identify a couple that maybe share your goals at the market and ask them how are they most successfully connecting with SNAP customers. What type of materials are most useful? What languages are they releasing those materials in? Where should they post promotional materials so that they're most visible to SNAP customers? And most importantly, are there opportunities to include farmers market promotions in their existing outreach materials? That may be your most targeted and most successful opportunity, is to just piggyback onto some promotional channels that are already being used. It could save you money, and it could also get you exposure into communities and in front of audiences that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to reach. So one group that has done a really great job of connecting with their local SNAP and social service agencies was the Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project, ASAP. And they were part of the Farmers Market SNAP Support Grant this past year. And one of the very first things they did was begin to lay a foundation for a really strong partnership with their local SNAP offices and social service agencies. They reached out to them and asked, you know, what are the best ways for connecting with this population? What are your most successful promotional materials? They showed them some of the promotional materials they were thinking about using, and got some feedback. And some of the things that they learned, these that you see here, the poster behind and the brochure in front, were two of the products that were created. And some of the lessons that they learned from their local social service agencies was that they needed to really have an image of the North Carolina benefit card, which is the American flag printed card there on the left-hand side, on the brochure, in addition to the USDA SNAP logo, which is on the front of the brochure. So not everyone recognizes the term SNAP, but they would definitely immediately recognize their benefit security card, because that's how the card that they have in their possession looks. So they made sure to put that image on there. These two promotional materials were created in Spanish. They initially went into this project thinking that they were going to have to do one in English, one in Russian, and one in Spanish. But in talking to the social service agency, they learned that it really wasn't necessary to do the Russian one, because those customers typically were able to read in English no problem. So they were able to save some money by only offering it in 2 languages rather than doing all 3. And you can see here that they included a map, they included some inviting photos. They got a lot of great feedback from their local partners. And the really great thing that they did after that, they didn't just show up, take their input, and leave. They invited them out to the market. They invited their local partners to the market to come on site. They offered them a tour of the market. They demonstrated how accepting SNAP at the market worked. They asked them while they were on site if there were ways that they could see that they could change the market to make it more inviting and welcoming to SNAP customers. So the fact that they were able to, get their input off-site, bring them on-site, get them excited about the program at the market, and also continue to glean information from them was really important. And then when they made changes based upon their feedback, they let them know. And they eventually gave them the promotional materials that had the changes and the input that the social services provided. So they were much more excited about using them because they had a hand in creating them. And they were much more eager and enthusiastic about spreading the word that SNAP was available at the market because they were part of that whole process. And they sort of completed the feedback loop. And another step that ASAP took to make sure that when people were showing up at the market and expecting a tour, that everyone was getting a proper, lovely tour and could really integrate them into the market experience, they created this farmers market tour guide. And it's a couple pages, just under 10 pages, I believe, that every farmers market had on site so that they could be prepared when someone showed up for a tour. And it gave pointers, things that they should point out, have samples available, talk to the farmers, make sure that you demonstrate how SNAP works at the market. A lot of highlights that would allow anyone volunteering or working at the farmers market to feel comfortable giving a farmers market tour. So that was how ASAP and a lot of other groups around the country were trying to learn more about their target audience and take advantage of the resources that were already available. Another way that you can do that, a more direct way, is connecting directly with SNAP customers by hosting a focus group. So focus groups are typically small groups of 6 to 10 participants, and it's basically an organized discussion with a selected group of individuals to gain information about their experiences and opinions on a particular topic. So they can be very, very structured or very casual. Either way, the purpose is just to get some insight that can maximize the effectiveness of your promotional campaigns and your program, and ensure that your programs are having the desired impact. So it's really just taking time to listen to customers and community members before proceeding with your outreach activities. So we saw with the Farmers Market SNAP Support Grantees, there was a group of 5 grantees who spent a lot of time on this step, on hosting focus groups. They all did them a little bit differently, some of them very differently, but there were some similarities between all the focus groups. Each had about 6 to 10 participants. Each group included current and potential farmers market customers, and each compensated the participants of the focus group for their time and their honest opinions. So they were not always compensated with money, but they, would have a tote bag or a voucher to spend at the market or some sort of thank you for their time. So Grow NYC, who runs Green Market, did a really great job of having a very structured focus group. They actually recruited a marketing firm to run the focus groups as a pro bono project. So if you have connections in your community with a marketing firm, this is something they might be able to take on for you. So they worked closely with this marketing firm and they sort of created the focus group that was focused on SNAP customers who already shop at the market, and then the marketing firm found the participants who were SNAP customers who didn't already shop at the market. So they hosted a couple of these groups and got feedback on the promotional materials that they were planning to release. And they had different designs for them to comment on. They had some that were more traditional, like, the cornucopia, the harvest images. And then they had these images that were more focused on street art that you can see in this picture in their Oh Snap campaign. So they obviously ended up going with this Oh Snap campaign that had these sort of graffiti-like images because they learned from their focus group participants that those more fun, more street art focused images made them feel more excited about going to the market. It really made them feel empowered and like the market was part of their community and something they could take ownership of. So they've done a great job with getting these Oh Snap images out there, and they've been able to incorporate them in creative ways. This is a mural that was painted at one of the sites where they have the market. So it was great not only to have some permanent signage to remind people that that's where the market was going to happen throughout the week, but also they made a big show of it when it was being painted. So it was an event that you could watch it being painted. And as you see in this picture, they had a press release when things were finished and invited local radio stations and the local news to come and see the new images and to become involved in the market. So they were able to not only create a really great promotional campaign, but turn it into various events and make it really integrated into the community. The Food Trust in Philadelphia also had focus groups, but they assembled them themselves, and they were a little bit more casual, but they learned just as much. They basically brought people into their office, to ask them questions and show them promotional materials and get their feedback. They asked them about their perception of farmers markets. They asked about the clarity, the effectiveness, and the aesthetic effect of their promotional materials. And they asked them generally about how they shopped at the market. You know, how much did they spend? How much SNAP did they spend? What was making them make these decisions on spending or showing up at the market? So they really got to learn a lot about who their customers were and why they were coming to the market and why they weren't coming to the market for those who weren't already shoppers. And based on what they learned, they created a lot of different promotional materials, but this great image you see here that shop, swipe, earn, and save, just to make it very clear how their Philly Food Bucks program works, which is an incentive program that they run. And you can see that they also use the image of their Pennsylvania Access card in that swipe image, rather than just having the SNAP logo, so that everyone could immediately identify their own state's EBT card. So once you've spent some time thinking about your target audience and identifying their needs, you can go right into deciding your advertising campaign. Typically, you know, we have markets doing posters, flyers, newspaper ads, signage on public transportation. Direct mail, as I mentioned, is a great way. We've seen markets partner with utility companies who send out either annual or biannual bills, or sometimes monthly bills, to everyone in a town. Sometimes they're able to include some promotional material so that everyone in town may get your brochure or pamphlet, or even just a little ad on their utility bill. So that's definitely something to check out. We always like to remind people not to forget about on-site signage, because even if you do a great job of promoting around town and you have SNAP customers showing up at your market ready to spend their SNAP dollars, and they get there and they're not quite sure how to use them at the market or where to go or if they can go to any vendor, you want to make sure when they get on site at the market, it's immediately clear that, oh, I need to go to the market information booth and get my tokens, or, oh, I need to, here's a vendor that obviously has a sign that says they accept SNAP, they can help me. So don't forget about on-site signage. And you can see here, this is a market in Michigan that had the great idea to put a little magnetic strip on their vendor signage. So each vendor had buttons that they could, or magnets that they could put on their sign saying if they accepted different types of payments and if they were certified in various ways, so that those are easily interchangeable as things changed with the vendor. So just an interesting, great idea. But every tried and true method is also great, like a banner, the A-frames, when you come into market, and including anything on vendor signage. And there are more and more kind of cool tech resources becoming available that if you're an FMC member, we try to include in our weekly emails out to members. One that is getting a lot of rave reviews is FarmFan, which is a texting service. So you basically collect phone numbers of your customers rather than emails. And so it functions like an email list, but it texts them directly. So the day before your market, you can send a text out to anyone on your list, reminding them that the market's happening, telling them what's available. So that's something that we've been seeing with SNAP customers be very successful as well. So back to the Food Trust in Philadelphia, based on their focus groups, they decided to pull these great images together, and they decided to incorporate them into public transportation. So they had them on the side of the bus, they had them at bus stops, and they had them on the SEPTA as well. So really comprehensive promotional campaign that Philly Food Trust put together. And also, we know that a lot of markets are getting more into Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, YouTube, which is wonderful. We should be taking advantage of all of those social media outlets as often as possible, because you have to remember that you're competing with all the other advertising going on out there in the world. So remembering to post on social media regularly is a great first step, but we also want to make sure people are really cultivating their free media options. So one way that markets are able to do that is by pulling together a list of local influencers or or notables, some markets call them. And that would be anyone in your community who is well respected and maybe has a big following either online or in real life. And that could be a local chef, a local restaurant, a school program, local sports teams, the PTA president, if there are any lifestyle bloggers in your city or town, local radio hosts, public officials, and anyone else who's sort of high profile in town. Find their social media feeds and their presence and their blog if they have one, and be sure to communicate with them regularly. Make sure that they know what's going on at your market, either by sending a press release, tagging them in posts, making sure that they know what's going on at the market so that as they're writing their own blogs or doing their own posts, they know what's going on and they might mention you or mention that they're going to the market and be able to provide some free advertising for you. So this can be hugely effective. You can see here, this is a YouTube video by a lifestyle vlogger on the left-hand side here that has 32,000 views, and the video is basically her just unloading her farmer's market bag and talking about the various things that she purchased that day and why she shops at the market. It wasn't paid, it was just her creating content for her site, and it got 32,000 views. So if that's something, if you know someone in your neighborhood or your city who does this type of thing, make sure that they know that you would really appreciate that and that invite them to the market regularly. Another way markets are boosting their social media presence is by having a market hall photo booth on site. And this can be great if you have a snap doubling program as well, to take the picture with, you know, with the normal purchase and then with the snap double volume shown. But this is a market, the Land Connection in Illinois, that they just have a basket out on this pretty purple tablecloth, and they encourage people to put their market haul in there, take a picture, and have the same hashtag available. And it's pretty popular, and everyone's excited about it, and it's just a way to continue to get your name out there and remind customers about the fresh, delicious food that they can purchase at the market. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex Canepa, our Research and Education Director, who's going to go through our last two ideas here for outreach.
Thank you so much, Jen. Hi, everybody. My name is Alex. So we all know that farmers markets want to welcome shoppers regardless of their income or financial status, and we have a lot of tools to do that. And one of the tools is to address price and purchasing power head-on by simply magnifying the amount of money that SNAP shoppers are able to spend at the farmers market. And one way of doing that is with these SNAP incentive programs. And the SNAP incentive programs are different all across the country, but they basically work in the same way. That if you take your EBT card to a SNAP-eligible farmers market, shop, then you earn either tokens or bonus bucks that then can be spent at the market or at participating local retailers on fresh produce from local area farmers. And this idea was so good that Congress was actually able to agree on it in 2014 and appropriated $100 million for a new program called Feeny. And Feeny is an acronym for the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive Program. And so Feeny enjoyed such broad-based bipartisan support and is very popular because there's a lot to like. Farmers love it because it can supplement their income. From the perspective of a farmer, SNAP dollars are as good as any other type of payment. And then obviously SNAP clients love it because they can afford the fresh local produce that they want to buy in their neighborhoods. So you can see the graphic here. The Food Trust has done a wonderful job, and I should say that Food Trust is one of the first recipients of the Feeny grants in their first round of existence. And so you can see this great promotional material that the Food Trust has put together that shows SNAP shoppers exactly where they can use their benefits. And part of winning SNAP clients is making them feel comfortable at the market and making them feel that it's really easy to use and earn benefits and incentive dollars at the market. And so being able to visualize that on the map is something that they've done a great job of. So we can go to the next slide, Jen. So the goal with running a successful SNAP program is to create loyal, returning customers, and that's really the goal of any market, but especially for a SNAP program. And there are lots of tools and best practices that markets and SNAP programs can do. And so farmers markets really are in a kind of unique and great situation because we can really offer the rich educational programming that a lot of grocery stores and other types of food retail just don't offer. So farmers markets are educational sites. They're places where we learn how to we don't just buy food, we learn how to cook the food, we meet our friends, we see our friends, and these are really unique benefits and something that we should definitely keep in mind when running a farmers market SNAP program. Cooking demonstrations are wonderful. A lot of SNAP clients might not be familiar with all of the produce and local exotic fruits and vegetables at the farmers market, and so having market staff or farmers walking through how to prepare these raw ingredients is something that works really well. So everyone, all shoppers, can leave the market with great new ideas for how to cook the wonderful food they just got. There's a good chance that the SNAP clients who might come to your market, that's their first time at the market. And we want to make sure that they feel welcome. And part of that is maybe a market tour. A lot of really successful farmers market SNAP programs. Actually, if you want to go, can we skip 2 slides ahead, Jen? So this is, no, we're kind of skipping in order. So this is Shannon and Rosa, who are 2 ambassadors who do outreach and market tours in their respective farmers market programs. And so that kind of shows the level of kind of personal attention to welcoming new markets. And so you can see there, Shannon, the farmers market flash program in Washington State. Can you go back 2 slides, Jen? Sorry, I'm jumping around. So we really encourage farmers market SNAP programs to work with everybody in the community that would be offering health fairs, maybe it's back to school drives, and really engage with community members. So that way the farmers market SNAP programming doesn't just end on market day, but it's a 7-day-a-week thing. Your SNAP clients will see the market and its presence out in the community, not just on Saturdays or Thursdays, wherever your market is. This is a great, I talked just in the last slide about recipes and cooking demonstrations. Washington State Farmers Market Association and a lot of other farmers markets, like the Sustainable Food Center in Austin, Texas, have done a great job of creating cookbooks and recipes that are seasonal and walk farmers market shoppers through what they can do with their produce. And so that's a great resource that's available, and really encourage all markets, but especially farmers market SNAP programs, to offer those kinds of resources to their shoppers. Next slide. So the goal is to create returning loyal customers, and winning SNAP clients' business is just the same as winning anybody's business. You want to highlight what your market has to offer and the unique things that it has, and really what makes us strong is that we are markets based in communities, and that you see the same faces, the same farmers, the same staff, your neighbors, at the market every Saturday. And one thing that markets have done a great job, that many markets have done a great job of, is this idea of SNAP ambassadors, or active outreach, that when a SNAP shopper comes to the market for the first time, might be unfamiliar how to use their benefits, there's someone there who's clearly identified as there to help and walk them through the process. It sounds crazy to us, but if you're new shopping somewhere, maybe it's a farmer's market not in your neighborhood and you're a SNAP client, that can actually be an intimidating experience. So there being a welcoming face there to show you how to use your benefits is a really important part of building that trust that then in turn develops loyal, long-term returning customers. Back to you, Jen.
Great, thanks, Alex. I also wanted to mention a in-person outreach opportunity that I heard about in Boulder at the Boulder Farmers Market. They were finding that it was really helpful if their market staff and volunteers could serve as volunteers for other communities. For example, there was a local school garden program that had regular volunteers, so they sent basically a SNAP ambassador to the garden program, the school garden program, to be a volunteer, so help with the garden for the day. But while they were there, they spoke about the market, and they made sure everyone knew that the market was available and that SNAP was accessible and how to do it, so that they were creating those personal connections out in the world, making people feel like, oh, A, know that SNAP is available at the market, and B, feel comfortable showing up because they already knew someone who would be at the market who could help them and who was going to be happy to see them. So really important to have outreach both on-site at the market in terms of a friendly face as well as out in the community. And that just highlights that all of these initiatives benefit from having really strong local partners. So think about the organizations in your community who could share your mission, or maybe don't share your mission right now, but might have another way that they could help out, and you can start to cultivate that relationship. Think about people that you aren't already partnering with. That could include places of worship, food banks, city and county government, social service agencies, your local SNAP office, health-focused nonprofits, anti-hunger organizations, SNAP Ed. There are a lot of states that have strong SNAP Ed programs who would be willing to help, after-school programs, business development districts, banks, and any neighborhood banks or restaurants, grocery stores, your PTA, and your local extension office. So be sure to think creatively about alternative partnerships that you can form. So that's it for our ideas for this presentation. I want to make sure that everyone knows about FMC's listserv. You can sign up at farmersmarketcoalition.org, and the listserv allows you to share other ideas and ask questions of other market managers. We definitely encourage you to check it out. I also wanted to remind everyone that the EBT equipment program is open now through May, so get your applications in. And also just a reminder that the USDA Farmers Market and local food promotion programs are accepting applications now, and their applications, I think, are due in March. So if you're thinking of a bigger scale promotional initiative for your market that you would want to apply to one of those grant programs for, be sure to check them out on the USDA website. So we have plenty of time for questions now, and we have invited some of the representatives from the market and programs that we mentioned to be here with us today so that they could speak to their projects directly if you have questions. And they include Cheryl Huber from Grow NYC at Green Market, Jessica Sparks-Muselin and from Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project, and I believe we have Mike McCreary on from ASAP as well. We have Megan Filaromo from the Food Trust, and Shannon Backel from Washington State Skagit County Extension Farmers Market Flash. So they have been very gracious and generous to join us here today to answer any questions that you might have. I don't see any questions in the chat box right now, but feel free to enter them in the chat box or raise your hand. And if we have, I know Mike is on the line. Liz, if you could unmute Mike. I actually have a question for Mike and Jessica at ASAP.
Okay.
I'm going to find their slide here.
Okay. I just scrolled past them, so just give me 1 second. Mike is unmuted.
Mike, are you able to talk to us?
Yes.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on the phone today. So I talked a little about ASAP project, the promotional work that you guys have been doing. I was just wondering if you could tell us what maybe the most surprising, or if there was anything that really surprised you about what you learned when you were creating these promotional materials and doing the farm tours?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how surprised we were. I mean, we gained some insight, for instance, into how best to reference SNAP EBT. You know, what letters to use, what verbiage to use that would be most commonly used among the service providers and the recipients of the benefits. So that was helpful. So there were little insights here and there. I don't think there was anything particularly surprising. Maybe I'm not easily surprised. I don't know.
Well, that's good. And do you continue to hear from the local partners? Are you working with them continuing, or is that sort of part of the project over?
No, it'll be ongoing throughout all 3 years of the grant. And we're kind of taking it in waves. We tried to begin the first year with the service providers that work directly with SNAP customers through the county or the health departments or DSS or whatever. The next wave includes to expand the focus to faith-based groups. So we're doing that in the coming year. So there'll be an ongoing element of continuing to reach out both to new contacts and to try to connect with old ones that maybe we didn't do as good a connection as we'd like, and then the ongoing communication with those who we are working with regularly. And Jessica's on this webinar. I don't know if she can be access to mute, but that's the answer, I think.
Great, thanks, Mike. Yeah, and Liz, if you're able to unmute Jessica, Cheryl, and Shannon now, that would be helpful. And if Jessica had anything to add about ASAP, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, Cheryl is.
Hi.
Cheryl is not.
Oh.
She's on her phone. She hasn't put in the audio pin, so.
Oh, okay.
I think it just, when I click this button, it should send it to her, and if she puts that in, I can unmute her.
Okay, great. We do have a question. We do have a question that came in about the texting that I mentioned. The question is, when you want to text a big group of SNAP recipients, how does that work? It's from Fiona Harrison. So the way that FarmFan works, which you can Google FarmFan, I believe it's created by Small Farm Central. You basically collect a list of phone numbers. So you're not finding the SNAP recipients on your own. As they come to the market, you can ask them to join your list, and they can put their phone number in. And then when you send out your text to everyone, it would go to anyone who has opted in to be on your texting list. Is that kind of what you were asking? So it's not like they're getting unsolicited texts. They've signed up to be part of that service. And it's just another way to remind people to show up at the market. And typically, you know, we all have full inboxes, and email newsletters don't often or don't always get read, or sometimes get lost in spam boxes, but pretty much everyone sees texts at this point. It's kind of hard to miss a text coming into your phone. So that's the idea with FarmFan and services like that, is that you're more likely to get action and actually have someone read it if it comes in as a text. So that's a service you have to pay for, FarmFan. And we have another question from Rebecca Landis. Oh, and she's asking about Farm Bill policy issues. We are actually at FMC having next month be focused on advocacy. So we are going to have all sorts of wonderful thoughts and ideas and research and tools for everyone that we will be releasing at our next webinar, which will be next month. So keep an eye out for those.
But Rebecca, the short answer is I don't think we're particularly worried. It was we had broad-based bipartisan support in the last Farm Bill, and there's nothing that we've heard that would lead us to indicate that that wouldn't be the case. And we're really, really encouraged by what we've seen so far through the program.
And that was specifically and related to Feeny, the incentive program that Alex was talking about.
Joel Tippins has his hand up, so I'm going to unmute him and see if he would like to ask a question.
Hey.
Joel?
Hey, actually my question was answered.
Oh, great.
That's easy, huh?
Yeah, that is. Well, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. This has been very helpful.
Great.
And we have Dwayne Dickenshoots with his hand up. And he's now unmuted. Hi, Dwayne, are you here?
Yes.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I was informed that I have to be an incorporated farmer to get the SNAP benefits. Is that true?
So the USDA Food Nutrition Service, they're the ones who do the authorization of SNAP retailers. So did you speak with them directly?
I believe so.
Yeah, so we don't have any say over who does or isn't able to become an authorized retailer. I believe there should be options for you no matter how you're incorporated. But if you can send an email to me at jen@farmersmarketcoalition.org, and we can figure out what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Or at least point you in the right direction.
How could she reach out?
Great. Was there other questions typed in?
Yes. So
Okay.
Megan Taylor asks, we've heard that many of our state's SNAP customers lack cooking equipment to prepare raw food items. Does anyone have any experience with a lending library for cookware?
That is a great question. And we actually have, I believe Megan, Cheryl, and Mike are unmuted right now. If any of you have experience with that, I feel like Grow NYC might have done something similar. I've heard of markets that actually offer prizes as cookware. For example, if there's a giveaway or a scavenger hunt or a cooking demonstration at the market, then they might have a prize that is a small appliance or jars for canning, that type of thing. But Liz, have you heard of any sort of lending library like that?
No, I haven't. Those are all really good ideas.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. But that's also a great question to put out to FMC's listserv. Typically, if there are markets out there who are offering a lending library, they would be probably available to you on the listserv. So we can connect and get your question out to the listserv.
We have another one here. Does FMC have any of the focus group questions? Do we have any focus group questions posted on our website?
We don't right now, and that's a great idea. We can definitely pull them together and get them on the website. We do have a section in the SNAP guide that is understanding your community and customer base, and I will see what we can do about getting it linked into that section. Maybe,
sorry.
Cheryl, are you able to talk to us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Cheryl.
Can you hear me?
Thanks so much for being here. Yes.
Okay.
So maybe you might have, I know it was a long time ago that you guys did your focus group, but do you remember one or two of the questions that were maybe more useful, or some of the lessons learned from the focus groups that were most useful to you guys?
I think the thing that was most useful, we had a pro bono marketing firm that was working with us, and I think what was most useful from them was it was kind of more research based. They helped us think through who our typical customers are and who a typical SNAP customer in New York City is. So they helped us kind of like figure out who we were marketing to a bit. So there were a couple of kind of buckets that they put out that were like one typical New York City shopper who is using SNAP might be a woman who's in her 60s, who's done raising kids, is very budget conscious and has a lot of time to shop, and is maybe cooking for grandkids or for her the larger family, and that's different from a younger parent who's very busy, but who may be a new immigrant who's really connected to the food that's offered at the farmer's market and the ability to shop outside. And so they kind of offered us like profiles of shoppers that helped us. I mean, you know, in some ways it just validated what we see at the market, but it also, I think, helped us kind of see areas that maybe we hadn't been, you know, specifically targeting before or reaching before.
Yeah, very helpful. Would you, and that was a good experience working with the pro bono marketing firm. That's something you would recommend?
It was great. I mean, it took us a long time to find a firm that was the right fit and had, you know, this firm, they just had really good experience, and they really, I mean, the thing that I keep thinking about them is that they really treated us as if we were paying clients, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a really, really good experience with them.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I will follow up with you to see if there are focus group questions that you guys would be willing to share with the group. And we also have Megan. Thank you so much. We also have Megan on the line from the Food Trust, which I think will be our last question. Megan, are you still there?
Hi. Yes, I'm still here.
Hi, Megan. Megan.
Hi. So
Megan, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So we did. I believe we shared with Darlene our focus group guides, which have our questions on there, and we would love for them to be shared out. So we created guides because we talked with current farmers market shoppers and others, and also separately SNAP recipients who are not farmers market shoppers, and we created guides, question guides for both. What was really helpful to hear and to get from our current shoppers was how they learned about our SNAP incentive and our farmers markets, and sort of what that process was like for them, and why that was so helpful for us was just because then we're kind of able to identify like what were the barriers, what was successful, and what can we, what works that we can continue to do to reach more SNAP recipients. So getting that information, we do customer surveys each year, but being able to get that information more in depth and directly from current SNAP shoppers at farmers markets was just a very valuable experience for all of us.
Awesome, thank you. And we will certainly share those guides if you are willing. We'll add them to the resource library. So thank you. And we'll send.
They may actually already be there. I just.
Oh, okay.
Darlene shared the link with me, which I posted to the group here, so we can add that to our resources for this webinar.
Great, thanks, Liz. Yeah, and so we'll send out an email with a link to the recorded webinar as well as any of the available resources that have been mentioned on the webinar as well. And I know we're a little past 3 o'clock, but it looks like Christina McDougall would like to speak quickly.
Hi, Jen. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Hi. Yes, hello.
Yes, there was a question on the USDA eligibility, USDA FNS eligibility on applying. There are no restrictions on what type of incorporated entity can apply to become SNAP eligible. We just had our first SNAP sign-up event of the year with USDA on Thursday. That was actually a question that came up. There are questions in terms of releasing individual Social Security numbers for those entities that are not incorporated. So if that is a concern of an individual, to do that, everything is ridiculously secure. They have to go through, USDA has to go through about 15 different logins in order to even access that information for you. So some people had questions on that. So in terms of security, you're secure on that side. The only thing that I recommend is making sure that as an individual that you have some type of insurance in terms of risk mitigation, since you are in a personal federal contract rather than through a business entity.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And the sign-up day went well?
The sign-up day, we actually didn't have anybody sign up that day, but we had 4 new markets that took information back to their boards because it was only one person from their board that was present at that particular event. But we have our second sign-up day happening on March 1st when you will be here in Indianapolis and Danville with us. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And then somebody also had the question about the kitchen equipment being rented out. So we actually have in one county in Indiana, there are 2 different organizations that have the ability for other nonprofit organizations to rent out cooking, like we call them our mobile kitchens. They're not mobile, but they're 2 giant boxes full of everything that you could possibly need in a kitchen in terms of basic tools, knives, mixing bowls, cutting boards, gloves, sanitary, cleaning materials, all of that. And so that's something that we tried out last year, and it worked really well. So as one of our partners, we just helped promote that. And as a result of that, we're actually doing, starting this year, 3 years worth of cooking demonstrations at 5 markets in that particular county using those boxes. So it can be done, and it can be done at a low cost and a very easy access for individuals. So I know somebody else had a question about that.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing, and I'm looking forward to coming up there. Great, and we have, I'm just going to keep going even though it's a little bit past 3 because we have some good questions coming in. This will be our last one. So, no, whoops, that's not it. Okay, we are a smaller market, about 20 or so vendors. I'm the manager and the only on-site person who would be processing SNAP. We will begin offering this program in June. I am not sure if I should go the token or the receipt route in terms of script. So does anyone have a preference or a reason that they chose one or the other? I will just say that most of the markets that we work with do choose tokens, and I think it's just for ease of using them, as well as customers like to hold them in their hand. You know, it's a little bit more tactile than a receipt, and you don't have to have the printer there and deal with the receipt part of the process. But does anyone who has already spoken today or anyone on the line have a particular preference for a receipt or a token, and why? Feel free to raise your hand and we can unmute you. And it doesn't look like we have anyone chiming in.
Rebecca Landis says tokens rule, and Christina says that municipal markets may need to check with their state as to requirements.
Excellent point. Okay, great. Liz, are there other questions that we should sneak in?
Rebecca would like to share her opinion about the tokens, so I'm trying to there. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm sorry, I don't even know where the hand is on this thing anymore. I feel very strongly that a receipt system will work only in a very, very small market. If your customers have to run all around the market shopping and then going back with their paid proof of payment to the farmers, that's really disrespectful to them. I actually got to experience this because a market in my community that I don't run tried to do debit this way last year, and it felt bad as a customer, and I was doing it not as a SNAP customer but as a debit customer. So I think there are just a very limited number of circumstances where you can do a receipt system and not inconvenience your customers a lot.
Thanks, Rebecca. And again, these are great questions for FMC's listserv as well. So if you're interested in hearing from more market managers on this subject, we encourage you to go to the website, farmersmarketcoalition.org. In our networking section, you can sign up for the listserv, and you can throw these questions out and hear from just over 1,000 market managers are currently on the listserv at the moment. So I'm going to end it there since we're way past the hour. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. And please do keep in touch if you come up with some great outreach and promotional materials. We love to see it, or feedback on the webinar, and keep an eye out for an email with the recording and the resources. Thank you.